Kaptain. I'm the board game captain.
I'm Lynn.
I'm Juliana.
And today we're going to be discussing a topic, something that we think is doing harm to the game industry, something that we think is killing the game industry. And in case today we are discussing brand loyalty. So what do we mean by this? Brand loyalty is something that many people have for many different things in their life. And I remember from all the way back when I was a kid when people had severe brand loyalty to their video game systems. You know, there was the whole debate between Genesis and Super Nintendo was a big deal. Which one was better? And you would see people, you know, even when there was obviously a game on both that was better on one than the other, they would, you know, contrary to logic, just argue that their version was better. Because how dare you speak against the company that sold you their game system? It's weird.
It's still like that now with PlayStation and Xbox.
Yeah, it really is. And like another example with video games that, and this is what made me think of this originally, but then I thought of it with tabletop games, because that's what we talk about on the channel, is some of the ludicrous arguments from people with crazy brand loyalty to Bethesda, even though Fallout 76 is a dumpster fire that keeps getting worse and worse. We haven't talked about it on this channel because we don't talk about video games on this channel. But the people who are still defending Bethesda, even after they've now started implementing basically pay-to-win mechanics in a $60 game and a $100 a year subscription that they did recently to get stuff that helps you play the game better, is just insane. And it's insane brand loyalty. And the reason why I think, and in a minute we're going to be getting into talking about how this can affect with tabletop games, board games, card games, role-playing games, miniature games, etc. The reason I think it's terrible, and the reason I think it's partially responsible for being one of the things that can kind of like kill the game industry, is that if you keep buying garbage from a company that puts out garbage again and again, they have no motivation to get better, to improve, to stop putting out garbage.
They probably don't even think that anything's wrong because people are buying the game. Mm-hmm. So,
well, from their perspective, nothing is wrong, is it? So I thought maybe we'd start with some examples that we could think of if we agree with this statement. My statement, again, this was my topic. My statement, of course, is that I think this is one of the things that sometimes I feel like is killing the game industry. So I'll throw out an example first, and then I'll turn it over to you guys and see what you guys think on this. But this was a big example from my past. So I spent years and years and years through many editions playing Warhammer Fantasy. Now, I started Warhammer 40k first, moved on to Warhammer Fantasy because the people I was playing with told me I would like it better, and that was in Warhammer Fantasy 6th edition. Now, in 6th edition of Warhammer Fantasy, there was a thing that you often heard people complain about, which was the power creep. That every time they came out with a new army book, that army would get stuff that made it kind of better than everything else that had come out before it. And then people were like, oh, you know, it's very unbalanced. Why do they do this? But of course, we all kept buying the stuff. And we all kept playing the game. And then they came out with 7th edition. And in 7th edition, they didn't even, it was very obvious that they didn't even really try to rein in that power creep. There was like 3 books in a row where each one suddenly was head and shoulders above everything that came out before it. And again, everybody kept complaining, but we all kept buying and we all kept playing and moved on to 8th edition, keep playing too. And then, of course, after 8th edition, they killed the game and switched it over to being
40K?
No, Warhammer Age of Sigmar. They switched it over. But that was the final thing that finally made me be like, I owe nothing to this company. I should not have brand loyalty to this company. They just killed the game I've been playing for years, even though they never fixed even the problems with that game that I was having. And now I'm going to stop giving them my money. And actually, I have kept to that. I haven't given any more money to Games Workshop in ages. But that was an example, in my opinion. Everyone was complaining about the same stuff, but we all kept giving money to the company. We were literally perpetuating what we were complaining about. Mm-hmm. That was my thought. How about you guys? You guys got any good examples of that?
I can't really think of any examples because I think the fact that, maybe it's not a fact. Well, I think that this is less likely to happen in board games because like there's so many different publishers and game designers. Like you think of the big video game publishers that make a specific sort of game because like most people who play video games have a preference about a sort of game they like.
Yes.
And most people who play board games they might have a certain type of mechanic that they like, but they usually play a vast assortment of different styles of games. So you're not going to get the people who will buy a game because BioWare made it, you know?
I see what you mean, but I think, now when you're saying most people, I think what you're really saying is me. Me being you.
Well,
But I think you're really saying, like, with you.
Yeah, like, I mean, I can't, like, I know some board game companies, just because, you know, we do the reviews.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, honestly, besides, like, a couple of board game designers that you hear their name over and over, like, I can't name more than, like, 3 or 4 of them.
So basically, this is not something that's affecting you.
Yes.
It's not. But now, here's the thing, and Juliana, maybe you could, because you've played more of these sort of games that I'm about to talk about, so maybe you could comment on this. Now, Lynn, you are talking about the general, the general grouping of all those various board games that you buy the game, you play the game. That's really it, unless maybe you buy an expansion for the game down the road, maybe. But I'm talking more about, like, in tabletop games, I feel like it's more that this is an issue with things that I would refer to as life-absorbing games. And now, that's not usually those sort of board games.
Yeah, you're talking about, like, the hardcore gamers.
Yes.
Who are like, oh, there's this new game by this person. I'm going to buy it. I don't even care what it's about.
But it's not even specifically with board games. I actually see it much more with two categories of games, which are tabletop miniature games. You see it a lot with, like I just said, with Warhammer. And the other one is collectible card games.
Yeah.
People have this crazy loyalty to a collectible card game, like Magic the Gathering, for instance. Even if multiple expansions have been terrible, and even if things that have changed in the meta have really been detrimental to the fun of the game, and they'll just keep spending money on booster packs and keep going. And no, but I have to stay competitive, and I got to be competitive for the next tournament. Now, I know you've played. Now, you never got into the tabletop miniature games as much, but you have done CCGs.
Yeah, I've played a lot of Magic the Gathering, and I play Pokemon trading card game. I think Magic in particular is one of those that people are blind with their loyalty there. And I think that it's a great game and it's a great concept, but a lot of the sets that have come out are just kind of like they make other ones obsolete, and it's a money suck to me.
And it really is. And I mean, I played Magic like way back in
the 90s when it came
93 out. I think I started, which was like the first year it was out. I started when they finally came out with their first ongoing base set, which was revised, because Alpha and Beta came and went like flash in the pan. Then their first couple expansions of Arabian Nights and Antiquities came and went. Unlimited, which was supposed to be ongoing, for some reason disappeared too quickly. And then the first time I remember actually being able to buy it, because that was the thing, like, you knew it existed, at least in my area, you knew it existed, but you couldn't get your hands on, like, starter decks and packs of it for a while, because it would just it would come and it would sell out.
Well, and then people would sell it on the secondary market.
Yeah, of course marked up. And then the first time that you could actually get it was revised in my area, and I got it, and I got into it, and that was all within the first year of it being out in 93. And yeah, for a long time, we were buying it, we were playing it, we're building up collections. And I remember the thing that, when you're talking about it being a money suck, I mean, it already was an unbelievable suck on your money. But what really did it for me was when they started doing the different types, type 1, type 2, etc. And the main type that became the one that everybody wanted to play was the one that really limited the field of what cards you could use. And you were only able to use like 3 sets plus the base set at a time, so that all your older cards were now obsolete. So, I got to buy even more cards. I got to go buy lots of more cards.
Well, and then they also banned a bunch of cards. I know, like, there are 3 different types of Magic that are out there, which is, modern, commander, and then standard.
Right.
And I don't know, I feel like coming into that as a gamer late in the game, it's just really hard to break into that unless you really put a lot of time and money into
collecting. And I mean, if you're fine with their format of how they're doing it, I guess then you're fine with buying it. But if you have a problem with their format on how they're doing it and how they constantly pump out new expansions and then obsolete the old expansions, and yet you keep buying it. That's what we're talking about when we're saying brand loyalty, because if you have a problem with that and you're putting money into it, there was no incentive for them to change.
Right. But I think overall Magic definitely is one of those things that people are going to just, it's never going to go out of style. It's never going to
it's the first collectible card game, and yeah, I'd be very surprised if as long as collectible card games are a thing,
right.
I would be surprised if it ever didn't exist. I would be.
Yeah, and I think, like, you know, it serves its purpose, and for people who have the money and the resources and are willing to spend the time, then, you know, that's great. But, I mean, going back to board game companies, kind of like Lynn, I'm similarly, like, I don't know that many board game companies off the top of my head, but the one that I'm really thinking of when you mention, like, brand loyalty is, like, for instance, Exploding Kittens.
Okay.
And then Throw Burrito are from the same company.
Okay.
Both are terrible games. They're just terrible. And it's...
Okay.
People,
I haven't played either one.
So people are loyal to the drawing person, the artist, right? I think it's the Oatmeal on...
okay, yeah.
Right, okay, so it's the Oatmeal on, like, you know, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. And he designed these, and they're loyal because he's got, like, millions of fans.
Right.
But the games are awful.
Bad.
And so people who maybe like the art but have never played board games will buy these games, and then, you know, they won't like them, or they will like them. And then...
Well, you just brought up an interesting concept for brand loyalty that I hadn't even thought of.
Yeah.
Is the loyalty...
Non-gamers buying terrible games.
Yep. Which is also terrible for the game industry, because then non-gamers buy these and they think, well, this is what modern games are.
Yep.
And it's not. They're an aberration. These weird little party games are not what the majority of well, I say mainstream, but of course modern gaming is not really mainstream. But they're not representative of the quality level of most modern games at all. And I'm with you on that. There was also, in addition to the Oatmeal, there was one game came out from the guy who did Odd Ones Out. And he's
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's another online.
Okay.
He does comic strips, and he has a YouTube channel where he does cartoons also.
Sure, okay.
And he's also very popular, super popular, like the Oatmeal. Almost said the Onion. No, different
the Onion's
thing.
also really popular.
Also really popular, yeah. But no, similar thing. He did one about a moth, because a moth named Harry, because that was a joke reference to one of his.
Oh, I think I know exactly who you're talking about.
I think the game's called Harry the Moth.
Yeah.
It's a joke reference to one of his cartoons from YouTube, and it was a funny cartoon and all. But the thing is, it's very light. It's cheesy. It's silly. It's not representative of the normal quality of games. And he himself is not really a gamer. He just decided, I guess he did a deal with this game company and wanted to make a game. And again, people who are loyal to his cartoon because his cartoon is funny, it's very entertaining, I watch it, are probably going to go out and buy this, except for those of us who are actual gamers.
Right.
Because we know it's not a good game.
But then that brings up a whole new, you know, issue is, are we being elitist?
It's a good question. I think you know what though? I'm going to cut that one off because I think we're going to save that for a future topic.
Okay.
But I have one more. Unless you guys have any more points you wanted to make on this, I had one more thing I wanted to bring up. But I'm going to go. I'm going to wait because I'm going to wait and see if you guys had anything else you wanted to bring up on this topic.
I don't think so. I mean, I didn't really have much to say about it to begin with.
Yeah, you weren't anti the topic. You were just a bit like, it doesn't affect me. Like,
yeah, because I mean, as far as just the, you know, board gaming in general goes, I think there's so many different companies that it's kind of hard to have brand loyalty to one company.
Okay, well, so I would agree with that.
Now, I want to throw out there, so this is an interesting thing that occurred to me. And it's related. So there's been a lot of hardcore video gamers lately who spend a lot of time complaining about all of the mobile games going full on with like whole hog towards the microtransactions as their method of making money. The game itself is either really cheap or free. And then they make all their money through the microtransactions, and a lot of times it's pay to win. You pay money to be able to do things, and that's not cool because you're not winning through the skill of the game. And something that occurred to me a while back, and we talked about Magic the Gathering and the Pokemon trading card game. And of course, Magic the Gathering was the very first collectible card game or trading card game, whichever way you want to call it. Here's the thing. Collectible card games pioneered that whole microtransaction thing. I mean, that's what packs of cards are. But we give them a pass. And I think we give them a pass because they've been around so long that it's just become accepted. That if you play a collectible card game, you buy a starter deck, and then you're going to buy packs. And you're going to have to buy a lot of packs to stay competitive. And then later you're going to trade and buy singles. And that's going to be a thing. Now, those singles, of course, don't give money to the company, but the packs do. And the packs are just basically microtransactions for a game that you already paid a handful of bucks for. Which is why I personally, at this point in my gaming life, much prefer like either a self-contained card game, or if I want to have something that I'm going to keep expanding, I like the format of like the living card game, where you buy an expansion, you get all the cards in that expansion, you don't need to collect them, and you just have it all, and you can do what you want with it.
Well, that also brings up an interesting point about like expansions for board games, right? So, for instance, Settlers of Catan.
Oh, has like a million expansions.
Has a million expansions. Now, at what point does that become just brand loyalty? Like, I'm going to buy it because it's Settlers of Catan.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
No, she might have you on that one because you were saying about the other games.
That's true. I didn't think of that.
Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts on that?
Well,
take a moment and think. I'll cut out the dead
Because some
air.
of those are really bad expansions.
right. Well, like, we've bought a couple really bad ones just because, we like this game, let's get the expansion.
And then we found out it was bad.
Yeah.
And we have bought it before finding out.
I don't think that's really brand loyalty because we legitimately like the base game.
Okay, so you're going off the reputation of the game that you already know you enjoy.
Yeah. And
well, now here's a question though. So like, okay, pick a game. Pick a game that we bought a bad expansion to. Just give me one game.
Lanterns.
Okay, so Lanterns is a great game, and they made one expansion, and the expansion was meh. We sold it. I wouldn't say it was bad. It just was meh. Just middle of the road. The problem was it wasn't as good as the actual game, so you would never use it again. We talked about that previously. So now here's a question. If you saw Lanterns had another expansion, would you still try to buy it? Or is your brand loyalty over at that point? Would you be like, nah, I'd have to see how it plays first?
I would, usually you can kind of tell how it plays by reading the back. Because, like, we really like Five Tribes, but there's an expansion that we never bought because we're not interested in what the expansion does.
And we do love Five Tribes, that's true. All right, so what we're saying, though, about brand loyalty is that when we're talking about it, we're talking about you would blindly give your money towards something, even something you complain about, even a game you complain about, like I was doing with Warhammer Fantasy. Another one that comes to my mind, years ago I used to be big into buying a lot of the stuff for Rifts and the other Palladium role-playing games, and their system had been incredibly outdated for years, and they refused to update it. They still have never updated it. The closest thing they've come to updating their role-playing game system was when they allowed Pinnacle Entertainment to release a Savage Worlds edition of Rifts. But they themselves have never updated their system. And I remember constantly being on the forums talking to people about they should fix this and they should fix that and why don't they fix this, and they could do a new system that wouldn't invalidate the books and it would allow you to still use the books, but it would clean up all the issues that we have with it, and they were never going to do it. And the reason they were never going to do it is we were all still buying the books, so they had no motivation to do it. And my opinion in these cases, and I just want to throw out one more example, my opinion in these cases, if you have a company that does expansion after expansion for this game that you used to love, but now the game is outdated, or the way they're marketing it is somehow bad, like microtransactions, and you really don't agree with it, or where it totally invalidates your older purchases and you have to buy new purchases to stay relevant, like Magic the Gathering does, and you feel like that's a bad thing, but you buy it anyway, they will never change because you're already giving them your dollar. If you're giving them their dollar, they've got no incentive to change. And that's why I think brand loyalty kills the game industry. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns on brand loyalty, or maybe just some of your own stories you'd like to share, please put them in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this discussion about why we think that brand loyalty is killing the game industry, give it a like, share it on all forms of social media, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Board Game Captain. That's Captain spelled with a K on YouTube. And I think we're going to take Juliana's idea for the next one and talk about elitism. So tune in for that one, because I like that idea. That was really good. Right there. Boom. I think we're going to discuss that. I think that's going to be Juliana's for the next time. But also tell us in the comments down below what other topics you'd like to see us discuss. And they don't have to be negative. They can be positive things that we think are saving the game industry too. So comment down below, and we'll see you next time.